Qatar is obviously the host of the 2022 World Cup, and for that purpose it's been importing tens of thousands of workers to help it build the infrastructure for the World Cup. But they are brought to Qatar under conditions which leave some of them vulnerable to bonded labour or forced labour, which are modern forms of slavery. The labour situation in Qatar is very complicated. So if you're a multinational company and you're coming into Qatar, many of the people who you are going to employ or who are going to work on your company are not employed directly by you. They're employed by a supply chain of companies that make them very distant from you, which is part of the problem because multinational companies therefore they don't immediately see that all their workers are their direct responsibility. It's further complicated by the fact that while there are labor laws in place in Qatar, they are not enforced stringently. And it's also complicated by the fact that these workers tend to come from countries such as Nepal, Bangladesh, India, where corruption is prevalent, where all these workers have had to pay money. And therefore, the plight of these workers is the responsibility of a range of people, governments in countries of origin, governments in countries of destination like Qatar, multinational companies that are working there. And therefore the solution has to be found with all these actors at the same time. Roots of slavery start in the countries of origins of these workers. They have to pay huge fees to find jobs overseas. In Nepal, typically it might be $1,500. In Bangladesh, it's more like $3,000. They all go into debt in order to pay these fees because they don't have that kind of money in their pocket, with very high interest rates. So there's a great responsibility on governments in countries of origin to clean up the recruitment process so that workers are less vulnerable when they go to places like the Gulf. Having said that, even if governments in the countries of origin did nothing, the condition of workers in countries like Qatar or Saudi Arabia or the UAE could radically be improved by some simple measures that the governments in the Gulf could take. In the past, there were so many factors that would dissuade them or make getting access to justice difficult. There was almost no option. There was a legal process in which you could seek redress, but it took a huge amount of time, years and years often. It was very costly for a worker. They would have to miss a day of work, which cost them money. They would have to hire a taxi to go to the courts, which cost them lots of money. That has begun to improve, I would say, in the last year, but there's still a long way to go. And for many of these workers, they don't even know where they go to get justice. Just a couple of days ago, a friend of mine emailed me to say that a friend of hers was trapped in Qatar. He'd arrived with a promise of a job. The job didn't materialize. They just got kicked out of the room they were living in. They had no idea what to do. And I would say that situation is common still in Qatar. So what happened in Qatar is that the UN was threatening to start an inquiry into forced labor in Qatar. And the threat of that was the main thing that forced Qatar to start to be willing to do some reforms. And part of those reforms has been to accept the ILO, International Labour Organization, to open an office in Qatar. That's happened. It's now been in place for, I think, about a year. And the ILO, in my opinion, is proving to be a positive force in Qatar. Should people be attending the World Cup? The issue is what happens before the World Cup. And there has been talk of boycotts of Qatar, the World Cup in Qatar. I'm not sure that would work. Oh, I'm not sure it would happen, but I'm also not sure it would work, because let's say you took the World Cup away from Qatar. Where would the incentive be for them to improve labour conditions for their workers there? Qatar's not the World Cup's not the only thing that's being built in Qatar at the moment. So I actually see it as an opportunity. The World Cup is an opportunity to drive change in terms of the conditions of workers there. The World Cup in Qatar offers a unique opportunity to put pressure on the government there to change its labour practices. They're very sensitive to bad press. They're really keen to portray a positive image of their country. They know the world's looking at them, but they chose that spotlight as well, so they need to respond to it. So I think this is a peak time for other governments, for NGOs to demand more from Qatar, because the World Cup, the greatest legacy the World Cup could have in Qatar is a really a fair and a labour system where workers are really treated right. That could be the greatest legacy of the World Cup.